So, um, in this video, I wanted to address something that I had touched on in the past, but never really elaborated on, and that is that I have spastic cerebral palsy. And in my case, what that means is I have tightness in my legs. My podiatrist once told me that they couldn't be any tighter. My heel cords couldn't be any tighter if I tried. I practice yoga every single week, roughly every week, and I can guarantee you that without it, I might end up, who knows, I might end up in a wheelchair. I almost did back in junior high school, believe it or not. There was an instance where I gave out, where my knees just gave out, and I ended up spraining my hip. That happened twice. And one of the other effects of the CP is that if I sit for a long time, I sometimes need to, it takes me longer, say, to get out of a vehicle, for instance. And depending on how high the door sill is into the vehicle, I may or may not have an instance of difficulty getting in or out of the vehicle. Some of the other interesting things, when I go to put on socks, for example, instead of being able to pick up one of my feet, depending on where I'm sitting, both of my feet both of my legs end up rising at the same time, which is really interesting. Excuse me. Let's see, what else is there to note? My balance is just completely like, you know, if you combine that with my depth perception, then it's very easy for me to get very anxious. I do not do well. Like, for instance, back when I was young, we visited this aerospace museum. Okay. And at this aerospace museum, there was one of the World War II bombers. So I decided to climb up on in there. And I started hyperventilating because what stood in front of me was literally nothing but a balance beam. Okay. Now, typically somebody who does not have cerebral palsy or vision impairment, who has really good balance, could probably have gotten across that balance beam no problem. Me, no. I actually had to get off the plane. We walked around to the back, and I peeked in, took a look at the other side through the rear entrance. The other thing in regards to my CP is that I will always sleep with my legs bent. And I can't really straighten my knees for any length of time, and it also hurts to stand for extended lengths of time. I can stand for a few minutes, but if I stand for longer than, say, 10, 15 minutes, then I will end up leaning to either the right or the left to take the load off of one of my other legs, and I just have to flip-flop back and forth, and eventually even that's not going to work out, that I'll have to grab onto a wall or take a seat or something. Especially like after a long flight, say a 4-hour flight, then I'm as stiff as cardboard. And again, trying to navigate my way through narrow or tight spaces, or any space where I have a chance of losing my balance, I just prefer not to do it. And a lot of people out there would think that something like this could never happen to them. Maybe not through cerebral palsy or or vision impairment through premature birth, which was my case, but they, especially the younger people, they would think I'm invincible. Nothing's going to happen to me. You have no idea how lucky you have it to have full 3D vision, to have, you know, perfect balance. You really should not be taking those things for granted. You should not be taking them for granted at all. I've seen countless drivers just zip around like they own the place, especially motorcycle drivers. Now, I must qualify. I'm sure the vast majority of motorcycle drivers are responsible drivers, are safe drivers. But there's always that subset, and this seems to be especially true on motorcycles, particularly the sport bikes, where your speed limit is 70 and you'll see somebody zipping by at 100, okay? There was this one time when I was in high school, and this bike was not only speeding, but was to our left, zipped through our lane, over into the right lane, and took off, and came within, I would say, a quarter of a foot on either side of myself and the vehicle in front of us. He could have easily been killed. And if he had gotten into an accident, he would have been killed. Somebody else would have been seriously hurt. And guess what? Well, now you may end up finding out what it's like to be blind, or to end up having to use a wheelchair to get around. All I'm saying is, you're not invincible. You're not invincible. Too many people take things for granted. They think that tomorrow they're going to be able to walk. Now, if they are very careful, and if they are responsible citizens, and they take care of themselves, and they're vigilant, then yes, chances are they will walk tomorrow. But that's not a guarantee. I mean, you never know what tomorrow will bring. What are your thoughts? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.